Hey guys, welcome back to Miniature Adventures. So today we're going to be looking at not 3D printed terrain, but 3D printer to print that terrain. More specifically, the Bambu Labs A1. Firstly, what is a 3D printer? Okay, so to give you a bit of backstory, what a 3D printer does is it converts this string-like material, which we call filament, into it heats it up at about 220 degrees, between 195 and 220. From there it's fed down into the extruder, which you can see here. That then it heats it up, it's pushed through, and it comes out a very thin like material, kind of similar to I won't say fishing line, but it's about 1.75 millimeters is what it starts out at. Now when it comes out, it's about 4 millimeters is what it comes out as. Now what it does is it layer by layer builds up the object until you get something like this. So we go from a very stringy material to this, and it compresses it flat, squishes it all together, melted, and then we get this. Now there are many. This one is considered, I would say, a mid-range one, not just for price, but I would say for size as well. Now the bed is 256 by 256 by 256. Now how that's calculated is length, width, and then height, to basically say 256 cubed. Now Bambu Labs make quite a few different ones. They make the X1 Carbon, they make the A1 Mini, and they make the A1. This is the A1. The A1 Mini, I believe, I do have it, but the base is about half that size, and the X1 Carbon is actually the same size, but it can do other materials and it's contained. Now the reason why I like the Bambu Labs ones is you can also buy what we call the AMS system, goes attached onto it. Now allows you to print in multi-color. So in theory, this thing that I painted, you could print in color and have it like that, which is fantastic, absolutely fantastic. I personally do have a couple of AMS systems. I have two A1s and I have the A1 Mini, and I use them for my other businesses where we 3D print dragons and toys. It's much easier, but for terrain I prefer to actually paint it myself. Now why did I choose the A1 over, you've got the Crealities, you've got the Anycubics, to name a few? So first off, I owned a Wanhao i3, which is, I believe, a 200 by 200 by 200. That one was great, very affordable incoming price. I believe at the time, it was 8 years ago, about $500-600 to US dollars to buy. But it was one of the earlier kind of models. It didn't have auto leveling. It did have touchscreen like this does, but it didn't have all the bells and whistles that this does, which we'll get into. I then got a Creality CR10. That one I kind of felt was a downgrade because it wasn't touchscreen. You use a dial to basically change the settings, digital settings. Didn't have auto leveling, but the bed was pretty big. I believe the bed on the Creality was about 300 by 300 by 300. It's a beast. So I chose the A1 primarily for cost. The combo for this was 539 USD, which is an absolutely phenomenal price for what you're getting. And that is for this and the AMS. I believe it's about 400, between 300 and 400 for just the printer. That in itself is beautiful. It's a good price for getting into it. But what I really like are all the extras for it. So firstly, ease of use. So when I built it, when I got this, you basically have to assemble this piece, attach it to the back, and plug some things in. That setup is absolutely foolproof. Like they show you documentation, but everything is color coded and lined up and perfect. It comes packaged really well. Setting up, once you're set up, you pretty much are good to go. I mean, they suggest you calibrate it, which I've done on every single one, but that is literally in the menu. You just go down, hit calibrate, and it does everything. It does sound, so it knows if it's being too loud. Now I don't know if you can hear this on the video, but it's not that loud. Really, it's not, and it's pretty fast. You basically, it goes through and it calibrates. This has auto bed leveling, which is a godsend. Literally, I'm terrible at trying to level beds. This has auto leveling built in. It also has a few other bells and whistles that we'll kind of get to. Speed, this is fast. Straight off the bat. this is fast. And this is on the normal speed. Now I can slow it down to about 50% speed, which will take obviously more time, but for more delicate things you kind of want it. Then they have, I'm not even joking about, ludicrous speed. Now that one is fast. Now I'm currently printing a benchy for demonstration, and that would print this in like half, even quarter of the time. It is crazy. I don't use it that often, mainly because you have to have really good bed adhesion, have it all dialed in. I'm just not that good. The next thing is reliability. Now there are maintenance things you have to do. Obviously we've got to oil in all the grooves and things, but it tells you when to do that. And there's guides and videos on how to do that. Secondly, it doesn't require a lot of maintenance. I mean, there are, you know, those few things that you have to oil. That is pretty much it. From there, we've got, you know, the filament management is pretty easy. To load and unload filament is all through the touch of the button. It has diagnostics built in, so it knows if the filament has clumped and will stop. It knows if you haven't put the bed down. Trust me, I've done this a couple of times. It will tell you and say, no, sorry. I've got notes here, so it's easy to use. Everything is here. Now, you can't see, but I can see the temperature of the bed. I can see the temperature of the nozzle. I can see the speed, and I can see pretty much what it's printing and how long it's going to take. So this says it's going to take 10 minutes to finish the bench, which honestly isn't very slow at all. Now, why did I choose this one? Like, when I was reading, the bed is pretty much standard, 256, but it was the reviews, the price, and the AMS system. That got me, honestly. Like I say, I have two. Now I have one A1 with the AMS system, and I have one without. This one is without, so you have a nice top mount. Everything's nice and compact. This doesn't take up a very big footprint at all. It's very rigid. Even on this wonky table, it's not wobbling at all, really. So I love that. Everything is easy to get to. All the parts are available on Bambu's website, and they have hundreds of guides on how to fix anything. I have a problem with the AMS system, and I had to replace the motherboard. There's a guide for that. Now, the one thing I really do like is the fact that, especially when you're printing colour, it cuts the filament for you, which we can see here. Now that will means that you get clean cuts between your colours. Your colours are crisp between the layers. Now I usually just print, like I say, terrain and grey, and this one is set up for grey, but even that, it has a nice little bit at the bottom to clean the nozzle, so you're going to get a crisp cut every time. And the Mini has exactly the same thing. It's just smaller. It is exactly the same mount and everything. Actually, I believe the Mini mounts here. I have an AMS attached to my Mini, but on the whole, it is pretty much the same. Now, the price difference is, for the combo for this is 539 USD. The A1 Mini, I believe, was 300, but they're doing a sale at the moment for 179 combo. So that is less than 200 bucks to get 3D printer and the AMS systems. Now, I print all sorts of terrain on it. I print all of these tiles. Like I said, I printed these, and I printed up to some big pieces, buildings and things like that on this, which you can do on the Mini. Now the Mini, the software that you use to run this, basically has an option. You can slice the file up easily. So if you've got a file that's too big, you can just cut it, and it cuts it nice and cleanly. And there is an app for your phone, so I can control the app, the printer. I can see what's going on. There is a camera built in, so I can monitor it. It has, like I say, diagnostics. Now there are sounds enabled, so it can beep when it's done and things like that. But we get, like, this is some beautiful quality prints from this. Like the level of care that they put into these, and the level of detail that it can produce, is absolutely fantastic. Now, there was a problem a while ago with basically with the main cable. I personally didn't have it on mine, but Bambu absolutely didn't even drop the ball. They just offered everyone, you know, you could either return it and get a new printer, or you could keep the heat bed and they'd give you like a voucher for your time and effort. The other thing I like about them is the customer service is beyond par. Like I say, I have a problem with my AMS And at first I thought it was a motor, and I basically messaged them and I said, hey, look, there's a problem. So they ran me through the diagnostics, found out it wasn't a motor, found out it was the main board on the AMS. They're sending it to me for free. Now this machine, or the AMS, is about a year old, so usually most manufacturers will be like, nah, sorry, your fault now. No, Bambu, absolutely fantastic. Now, if you get the Bambu filament, I use the Anycubic, primarily just because I like that brand. But if you use the Bambu one, they have RF ID tags in them. And what that means is the printer will know exactly what color you're using and adjust all the settings accordingly for you. Also, it'll adjust basically temperatures, print speed, stuff like that. So if you're just using generic filament, you just use there is a generic one in there. Take a look though, just to kind of double check. Now, what else about this? So these obviously are open-ended, and they're what they call bed slingers. Basically, they sling backwards and forwards, and they're open. The Bambu Labs A1 carbon is completely built in. It's designed for printing ABS, which is a harmful print. You really want to have good ventilation. Whereas these are kind of open-ended, so you want to be careful if you have kids. I do, and I have my office locked because they will tend to kind of want to touch it. And the bed is about 65 degrees, which will give you a little bit of a warm touch. But the nozzle itself is about 220, like I say, and you don't want them getting their hands in and things like that. So there is that to consider. There are, I believe, IKEA hacks you can do to build an enclosure for it. But for terrain, I feel like this is the best deal. Like I say, to run down again, easy to use. It's speed and quality, so you're not sacrificing quality over speed. The filament management for it is absolutely on par. It's reliable. These probably have printed, I want to say, and I'm not even exaggerating, 400 or 500, 600 prints, and my failure rate is probably less than like 5%, and most of the failure rates is stuff I have messed up. Maybe the file just wasn't quite right. Maybe I did something with the filament, I didn't set it up properly. So that is it. Otherwise, this thing will just chug along nicely. Like I say, you've got to make sure you do the maintenance, but apart from that, it's chugging along. Now, like I say, this one is doing benchy. Not sure how long it's going to take. So we have 4 minutes left on this one, but I just want you to kind of see. So that is the A1. Now, like I say, they are on sale, so go pick one up if you haven't already. Please, it is a beautiful printer, and I will probably be buying more to run more things. So guys, thank you for listening. If you haven't already, please subscribe down below. Hit the like button. Comment in if you have one of these, what do you think? If you have a different printer, would you consider switching, or are you going to stick to that one, and why? That's it, guys. From me and our A1 here, we wish you a good night, and keep on printing those terrain.